In the heart of a bustling city where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and the streets echoed with the sounds of daily life, an extraordinary incident was about to unfold. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon when Mayor James Thompson, known for his sharp suits and even sharper wit, stepped out of his office. The sun glinted off his tailored navy blue suit, complementing his polished shoes. As he walked through the vibrant downtown area, he greeted passers-by with a warm smile, embodying the spirit of a leader committed to his community. However, that day would take a dramatic turn. Unbeknownst to him, a series of misunderstandings were brewing just around the corner. A local shopkeeper had reported suspicious activity in the area, a man in a fancy suit lingering too long outside a high-end jewelry store. The description was vague but enough to set off alarm bells for the local police. As Mayor Thompson continued his stroll, enjoying the crisp autumn air and the vibrant colors of fallen leaves, 2 police officers received a call over their radio. The dispatcher relayed the shopkeeper's concerns, urging them to investigate. With their duty to protect and serve weighing heavily on their minds, they quickly made their way to the scene. The officers spotted Mayor Thompson as he approached the intersection, completely unaware of the eyes that were now fixed upon him. They exchanged glances, unsure if they should approach this sharply dressed man who seemed so out of place in their current narrative of suspicion. Yet, duty called. "Excuse me, sir," one officer called out as they approached him with a sense of urgency. "Can we have a word?" Startled but composed, Mayor Thompson turned to face them. "Of course, officers. How can I help you?" His voice was calm, but inside he felt a twinge of confusion. What could possibly be wrong? The officers explained that they had received reports about suspicious behavior in the area and needed to ask him a few questions. The mayor's brow furrowed slightly. He had been nothing but an upstanding citizen and public servant. "I assure you, I'm just on my way to meet some constituents," he replied, gesturing toward a nearby cafe where he had planned to hold an informal meeting. But as they continued their questioning, asking for identification and details about his activities, the situation escalated rapidly. The officers' demeanor shifted from cautious inquiry to firm authority as they insisted on detaining him for further questioning. The mayor's heart raced. This was not how he envisioned his day unfolding. "Wait a minute," Mayor Thompson said firmly but respectfully. "I'm the mayor of this city." He reached for his wallet to produce his identification, hoping that revealing his position would clear up this misunderstanding. But before he could present it, one officer placed handcuffs on him. "Sir, we need you to come with us," he stated matter-of-factly. The shock rippled through Mayor Thompson as he felt the cold metal around his wrists. He couldn't believe what was happening. This was not just an affront to him personally, but also an embarrassment for his office and community. Passers-by began to gather, murmuring in disbelief as they recognized their mayor being led away in cuffs. As word spread through social media and local news outlets began reporting on the incident, outrage grew among citizens who had always viewed Mayor Thompson as a pillar of integrity and leadership. How could this happen? How could a respected public figure be treated like a common criminal? In that moment of chaos and confusion, Mayor Thompson remained composed despite the humiliation he felt. He knew that this incident would not only impact him personally, but would also raise important questions about race relations and policing in their city, a conversation that had been simmering beneath the surface for far too long. As he was escorted into the police vehicle, thoughts raced through his mind. What would this mean for his administration? How would his family react? And most importantly, how could he use this experience to foster dialogue around justice and equality in their community? Little did anyone know that this shocking encounter would not only change perceptions, but also ignite a movement for change within their city, a movement that would challenge deep-seated biases and push for accountability in law enforcement. A series of misunderstandings. As Mayor James Thompson sat in the back of the police cruiser, handcuffed and bewildered, the reality of his situation began to sink in. The world outside continued its usual rhythm. Cars honked, pedestrians hurried by, and the city buzzed with life. Yet within that small enclosure, time felt suspended. How had it come to this? The initial call. The events leading to his arrest began with a seemingly innocuous call from a local shopkeeper named Mr. Patel, who owned a jewelry store just a block away. Mr. Patel was a well-respected member of the community, known for his generosity and involvement in local charities. However, on that particular day, he had been on edge due to a recent string of robberies in the area. When he spotted Mayor Thompson lingering outside his store, he misinterpreted the mayor's presence as suspicious. Something just doesn't feel right, Mr. Patel thought, as he observed the mayor adjusting his cufflinks and glancing at his watch. In his mind, the mayor's behavior seemed out of character, too deliberate and too focused on the store's window displays. He picked up the phone and called 911, describing a suspicious man in a suit who had been loitering too long outside his shop. The dispatcher relayed this information to Officer Daniels and Officer Rodriguez, who were patrolling nearby. They were instructed to investigate Mr. Patel's concerns. As they drove toward the scene, they discussed how they would approach the situation. "Let's just ask him some questions," Officer Daniels suggested. "We don't want to escalate things unnecessarily." "Agreed," Officer Rodriguez replied, "but we have to be cautious. We don't know what we're dealing with." The encounter. When they arrived at the intersection where Mr. Patel had reported seeing the suspicious man, they spotted Mayor Thompson just as he was about to cross the street. The officers exited their vehicle and approached him with determination. "Excuse me, sir," Officer Daniels called out, raising his hand to signal him to stop. Mayor Thompson turned around, his expression shifting from surprise to confusion as he faced two uniformed officers approaching him with an air of authority. "Can we have a word?" Officer Rodriguez asked, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite the tension in the air. "Of course," Mayor Thompson replied, trying to gauge their intentions. "Is something wrong?" The officers explained that they had received reports about suspicious behavior in the area and needed to ask him some questions for their investigation. The mayor listened attentively but felt an unsettling sense of disbelief creeping in. "I assure you," he said earnestly, "I'm just on my way to meet some constituents at a cafe nearby." He gestured toward Cafe Bella, where he had planned an informal gathering with local business owners. However, as they continued their questioning, asking for identification and details about his activities, the officer's tone shifted subtly from inquiry to suspicion. Mayor Thompson sensed their growing unease. Perhaps it was fueled by their own biases or simply a misunderstanding of his intentions. Escalation. Despite presenting his identification and trying to explain himself further, things took a turn for the worse when Officer Daniels insisted on detaining him for further questioning. The mayor's heart raced. This was not how he envisioned his day unfolding. "Wait a minute," Mayor Thompson said firmly but respectfully. "I'm the mayor of this city." He reached for his wallet again to produce his identification, a gesture meant to clarify his identity and authority. But before he could present it fully, Officer Rodriguez placed handcuffs on him with a swift motion that left him stunned. "Sir, we need you to come with us," she stated matter-of-factly. The shock rippled through Mayor Thompson as he felt the cold metal around his wrists tighten against his tailored suit. He couldn't believe what was happening. This was not just an affront personally, but also an embarrassment for his office and community. Public reaction. As news of the incident began to spread through social media platforms like wildfire, citizens gathered around Cafe Bella, where Mayor Thompson had intended to meet with local business owners. Many recognized their mayor being led away by police officers and pulled out their phones to document what they believed was an unjust act. "Is that really Mayor Thompson?" one woman gasped as she recorded video footage of the scene unfolding before her eyes. "Yes! This is outrageous," another bystander exclaimed, shaking her head in disbelief. Within minutes, hashtags like Justice for Mayor Thompson began trending on Twitter as people expressed their outrage over what they perceived as racial profiling and police misconduct. Comments flooded in from community members who had always viewed Mayor Thompson as a pillar of integrity and leadership. "How could this happen?" One tweet read, "He's done so much for our city." The aftermath back at the police station, Officer Daniels and Officer Rodriguez were processing Mayor Thompson's arrest while grappling with their own mixed feelings about what had transpired. They had followed protocol, but couldn't shake off an underlying sense of discomfort about how quickly things escalated as Mayor Thompson sat in an interrogation room waiting for someone to explain why he was being treated like a criminal. He reflected on how this incident could shape public perception, not just of him, but also of law enforcement practices within their community. "I need to turn this around," he thought resolutely, as he waited for someone, anyone, to come through that door and clarify this absurd situation. Meanwhile, community leaders began organizing protests demanding accountability from law enforcement agencies regarding racial profiling practices and police conduct during such encounters. They planned rallies that would take place over the coming days, events aimed at fostering dialogue about justice and equality in their city. Little did anyone know that this shocking encounter would not only change perceptions but also ignite a movement for change within their city, a movement that would challenge deep-seated biases and push for accountability in law enforcement practices across communities nationwide. A leader's journey, early life and education. James Thompson was not born into privilege. He grew up in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. His parents, both hardworking individuals, instilled in him the values of perseverance and community service from a young age. His father was a factory worker, and his mother was a school teacher who often brought home stories of her students' struggles and triumphs. These early experiences shaped James's understanding of the challenges faced by ordinary citizens. As a child, James was curious and ambitious. He excelled in school, often participating in debates and student government. His teachers recognized his potential and encouraged him to pursue higher education. After graduating high school with honors, he earned a scholarship to attend a prestigious university, where he studied political science. It was during these formative years that James developed a passion for public service and social justice. Rise to political prominence. After completing his degree, James returned to his hometown, determined to make a difference. He began working as a community organizer, advocating for underrepresented groups and pushing for policies that would improve living conditions in low-income neighborhoods. His charisma and dedication quickly garnered attention, leading him to run for local office. At just 28 years old, James was elected to the city council, where he focused on affordable housing initiatives and educational reform. His ability to connect with constituents earned him respect across party lines. Over the years, he built a reputation as a pragmatic leader who listened to the needs of his community. In 2018, after serving 2 terms on the council, James decided to run for mayor. His campaign centered around inclusivity, transparency, and economic revitalization. He promised to bring about change that would benefit all citizens, not just those in affluent neighborhoods. His message resonated deeply with voters who were eager for fresh leadership. The mayoral campaign, James's campaign, was marked by grassroots support and innovative strategies. He held town hall meetings throughout the city, listening to residents' concerns and sharing his vision for a better future. His team utilized social media effectively, engaging younger voters and encouraging them to participate in the electoral process. On Election Day, the city turned out in droves to support him. The results were overwhelming. James Thompson won by a landslide, becoming the first black mayor in the city's history. His victory was celebrated as a monumental step forward for diversity and representation in local government. Achievements as mayor. Once in office, Mayor Thompson wasted no time implementing his agenda. He prioritized initiatives aimed at improving public safety without compromising community trust. He worked closely with law enforcement agencies to promote community policing strategies that emphasized building relationships between officers and residents. Under his leadership, several key projects were launched. James spearheaded efforts to create affordable housing units throughout the city. He partnered with local developers to ensure that new constructions included options for low- and middle-income families. Understanding that education is foundational to community empowerment, he advocated for increased funding for public schools and after-school programs. He also established mentorship initiatives, connecting students with professionals in various fields. To stimulate local businesses, James introduced incentives for small businesses and organized job fairs that connected residents with employment opportunities. His administration focused on attracting new industries while supporting existing businesses. Mayor Thompson believed in transparency and accountability in government. He implemented regular town hall meetings where citizens could voice their concerns directly to him and his team. Through these initiatives, Mayor Thompson gained widespread admiration from constituents who viewed him as a champion for their rights and needs. Personal life. Despite his demanding schedule as mayor, James made it a point to remain connected with his family and friends. He often spoke about how important it was to maintain balance in life amidst public service pressures. Married to his college sweetheart, Lisa, an educator herself, they had 2 children who were actively involved in school activities and community events. James often shared stories about family dinners filled with laughter and discussions about current events at their kitchen table. This grounding influence kept him humble amidst the accolades he received as mayor. Community perception. As news of Mayor Thompson's arrest spread through social media following the incident at Cafe Bella, it struck a chord within the community he had worked so hard to uplift. Many residents felt an immediate sense of disbelief. How could someone they trusted so deeply be treated like a criminal? The mayor had become synonymous with progress. His leadership represented hope for many who felt marginalized by society. Community leaders began organizing rallies not only demanding justice for Mayor Thompson, but also using this incident as an opportunity to address broader issues surrounding policing practices in their city. Activists spoke out against racial profiling while emphasizing that this was not just about one man, but about systemic injustices faced by countless individuals every day. The impact of the incident. In the days following the arrest, conversations ignited across various platforms. Coffee shops buzzed with discussions about race relations. Social media exploded with hashtags calling for accountability. Local news outlets covered protests advocating for police reform. Mayor Thompson's supporters rallied together at City Hall, holding signs that read, "We stand with our mayor," and "Justice for all." They demanded answers from law enforcement agencies regarding their protocols when dealing with public figures, especially those representing marginalized communities. As protests grew larger each day, it became clear that this incident would not only affect Mayor Thompson personally, but would also serve as a catalyst for change within their city, a change that many believed was long overdue. A turning point. Amidst this turmoil, Mayor Thompson remained resolute in his commitment to justice, not just for himself, but for all those who had faced similar situations due to systemic biases within law enforcement practices across America. "I will not be silenced," he declared, during an impromptu press conference held outside City Hall shortly after being released from custody. "This is bigger than me. This is about our entire community coming together to demand accountability." His words resonated deeply with constituents who had always looked up to him as an advocate for their rights, a leader willing to confront uncomfortable truths head-on while pushing forward toward progress despite adversity. As discussions surrounding police reform intensified within local government meetings over subsequent weeks, fueled by passionate testimonies from community members, the stage was set for meaningful change that could reshape policing practices throughout their city moving forward. As Mayor James Thompson was released from police custody, he was met with a wave of media attention. News crews from local stations gathered outside the police station, eager to capture his first comments after the shocking incident. Cameras flashed as he stepped out, flanked by supporters who had gathered in solidarity. The atmosphere was electric, filled with a mix of hope, anger, and determination. "Thank you for your support," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "What happened to me could happen to anyone in our community. This is not just about me. It's about the systemic issues that affect so many people every day." His words resonated deeply with those present and quickly spread across social media platforms. Clips of his statement went viral, sparking discussions about racial profiling and police accountability. Hashtags like #Justice for Mayor Thompson and #End Racial Profiling began trending nationally, as people from various backgrounds expressed their solidarity with the mayor. Media coverage. The media coverage surrounding the incident was intense. Local news outlets dedicated segments to analyzing the arrest, while national networks picked up the story, framing it as a significant moment in the ongoing conversation about race relations in America. Commentators debated the implications of a black mayor being treated as a suspect in his own city, a narrative that struck a chord with many viewers. In editorial pieces, journalists highlighted Mayor Thompson's achievements and questioned how such an esteemed public figure could be subjected to such treatment. "If this can happen to him," one op-ed read, "what does it say about our justice system? We must confront these uncomfortable truths if we are to move forward as a society." As coverage continued, various organizations reached out to offer support. Civil rights groups organized press conferences and rallies to amplify their message of justice and equality. They invited Mayor Thompson to speak at events where he could share his experiences and advocate for systemic change. Community response. Within the community, reactions were swift and passionate. Many residents expressed disbelief over what had transpired. "He's done so much for us," said Maria Gonzalez, a local business owner who had known Thompson for years. "To see him treated like this is unacceptable." Community forums sprang up across neighborhoods where residents gathered to discuss the implications of the arrest. These gatherings became safe spaces for individuals to share their own experiences with law enforcement, stories of racial profiling, discrimination, and fear. At one such forum held at a local church, attendees shared their frustrations and hopes for change. "We need to hold our police accountable," shouted an activist named Malik Johnson. "This isn't just about one man. It's about all of us who have been marginalized." The energy in the room was palpable as people exchanged ideas on how to mobilize effectively. Many agreed that they needed to push for reforms in policing practices that would ensure accountability and transparency moving forward. Rallies for justice. In response to the growing outrage, community leaders organized a series of rallies aimed at demanding justice for Mayor Thompson and advocating for broader police reform. The first rally took place just days after his release from custody, drawing hundreds of supporters who marched through downtown carrying signs that read, "We stand with our mayor," and "Justice for all." The atmosphere was charged with energy as speakers took turns addressing the crowd. Activists highlighted stories of individuals who had faced similar treatment at the hands of law enforcement, stories that echoed Thompson's experience. "Today we stand together, not just for our mayor, but for every person who has ever felt powerless against an unjust system," said one speaker passionately. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause as they chanted slogans calling for change. Media outlets covered these rallies extensively, further amplifying their message. As footage circulated online, more people joined in solidarity, both locally and nationally, creating a movement that transcended geographical boundaries. Political implications. As public sentiment grew stronger, political implications began to surface within local government circles. Some city council members expressed concern over how this incident would affect their constituents' trust in law enforcement agencies. Calls for an independent investigation into the arrest gained momentum as citizens demanded accountability from those sworn to protect them. Mayor Thompson's allies within city government rallied around him, emphasizing that this incident should serve as a wake-up call for everyone involved in governance, especially those in law enforcement positions. "We cannot ignore what happened here," said Councilwoman Linda Harris during a council meeting shortly after the incident. "We must take action to ensure this doesn't happen again, not just for our mayor but for every resident in our city." A call for reform. In light of these developments, Mayor Thompson took it upon himself to lead discussions on police reform within City Hall meetings. He proposed forming a task force dedicated to examining policing practices and recommending changes that would foster better relationships between law enforcement and communities. "We need transparency," he stated during one meeting attended by community leaders and activists alike. "We need accountability measures in place that protect our citizens, while ensuring our officers are equipped with proper training on bias recognition." The proposal received overwhelming support from both council members and community advocates who recognized this as an opportunity for real change, a chance to reshape policing practices within their city. National attention. As local movements gained traction, national attention turned towards Mayor Thompson's story as well. Prominent civil rights leaders reached out to him personally, offering their support while encouraging him to use his platform to advocate for broader systemic change across America. Your experience is not isolated. It reflects a larger narrative affecting countless individuals, said a representative from a national civil rights organization during a phone call with Thompson. We want you to be at the forefront of this movement. With each passing day, Mayor Thompson found himself increasingly aware of his role, not just as a local leader, but also as part of a larger movement advocating for justice across racial lines throughout America. The power of unity. As protests continued and discussions around reform intensified within city government meetings, unity among community members became paramount. People from diverse backgrounds came together, regardless of race or socioeconomic status, to advocate for justice collectively. At one rally held outside City Hall, individuals shared personal stories about how they had been affected by systemic injustices over time, stories that resonated deeply with others present. This isn't just about one person. It's about all of us standing up against injustice, declared one speaker passionately, before leading chants that echoed through downtown streets filled with supporters demanding change. The sense of solidarity strengthened bonds within communities long divided by socioeconomic disparities, reminding everyone present that they were fighting not only for justice, but also for dignity and respect. A turning point. As discussions surrounding police reform continued gaining momentum both locally and nationally, the arrest incident served as a catalyst igniting conversations long overdue within society regarding race relations and accountability measures needed within law enforcement agencies across America. For Mayor Thompson personally, the experience transformed him into more than just an elected official. It positioned him as an emblematic figure representing resilience against adversity, while inspiring hope among those yearning for change amidst challenging circumstances. With each passing day following his arrest, the narrative evolved beyond mere headlines. It became symbolic of collective struggles faced by marginalized communities, everywhere striving toward equity, while demanding justice from systems designed often without consideration toward their needs or experiences. The investigation begins. In the wake of Mayor James Thompson's arrest, an independent investigation was launched to assess the circumstances surrounding the incident. Community leaders and activists had called for transparency, demanding that law enforcement agencies be held accountable for their actions. The City Council convened emergency meetings to discuss the implications of the arrest and how to address community concerns. The investigation was led by a respected former judge, known for her impartiality and commitment to justice. She assembled a team of investigators who began interviewing witnesses, reviewing police body camera footage, and examining the protocols that had been followed during the arrest. The goal was clear: to determine whether proper procedures were adhered to, or if biases had influenced the officers' actions. As news of the investigation spread, it became a focal point for community discussions. Residents gathered at town hall meetings to express their thoughts and concerns about policing practices in their city. Many felt that this incident was a symptom of a larger problem: systemic racism embedded within law enforcement agencies. Community mobilization. Community mobilization intensified as residents rallied around Mayor Thompson, demanding justice not only for him, but for all individuals who had faced similar injustices. Activist groups organized peaceful protests, marches, and sit-ins to raise awareness about racial profiling and police misconduct. These events drew participants from diverse backgrounds: young people, families, professionals, and seniors, united by a common cause. At one particularly impactful rally held outside City Hall, speakers shared personal stories about their encounters with law enforcement. A young woman named Aisha recounted her experience of being stopped by police while driving home from work. "I was terrified," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. I did nothing wrong, but I felt like I was being treated as a criminal simply because of the color of my skin. The crowd erupted in applause as she continued. We need change. We need accountability. We need our voices heard. Her words resonated deeply with those present, fueling their determination to push for reform. Political fallout. As public pressure mounted, political leaders found themselves navigating a complex landscape. Some council members expressed support for Mayor Thompson, recognizing his contributions to the community and advocating for an independent review of police practices. Others were more cautious, fearing backlash from constituents who might view them as too lenient on law enforcement. In one heated city council meeting, tensions flared as council members debated how best to respond to the situation. We cannot turn a blind eye to what happened, Councilwoman Linda Harris argued passionately. This is about accountability. We owe it to our citizens to ensure that this doesn't happen again. However, some council members raised concerns about potential repercussions for law enforcement agencies if they were found at fault. We need to consider the implications of our actions, one member cautioned. We don't want to create an environment where officers feel they cannot do their jobs effectively. These differing viewpoints highlighted the challenges faced by local leaders as they sought to balance community demands for justice with concerns about maintaining public safety. The role of media. Throughout this tumultuous period, media coverage played a crucial role in shaping public perception. Journalists reported on protests and community gatherings, while also providing updates on the investigation into Mayor Thompson's arrest. Editorials emerged calling for systemic change within law enforcement agencies, not just in their city, but across the nation. National news outlets began covering the story extensively, framing it within the broader context of ongoing conversations about race relations in America. Commentators analyzed similar incidents that had occurred across various cities, highlighting patterns of racial profiling and police brutality that had sparked outrage among marginalized communities. As public interest grew, prominent figures in politics and civil rights advocacy reached out to support Mayor Thompson's cause. Leaders from organizations like the NAACP and ACLU offered their resources and expertise to help amplify community voices demanding change. A turning point. The investigation into Mayor Thompson's arrest ultimately became a turning point, not just for him personally, but for countless individuals who had faced similar injustices over time. As more people shared their experiences with law enforcement during community forums and rallies, it became clear that this incident was part of a larger narrative affecting communities nationwide. In response to mounting pressure from constituents demanding accountability within policing practices, Mayor Thompson took bold steps toward reforming law enforcement policies in his city. Proposals for reform. In collaboration with community leaders and activists, Mayor Thompson proposed several key reforms aimed at fostering better relationships between law enforcement agencies and residents. Implement comprehensive bias training programs for all police officers, focused on recognizing implicit biases and understanding cultural sensitivities when interacting with diverse communities. Establish community policing initiatives designed to build trust between officers and residents through regular engagement activities such as neighborhood meetings or events promoting positive interactions. Create an independent oversight board tasked with reviewing police conduct during incidents involving use of force or allegations of misconduct, ensuring transparency while holding officers accountable for their actions. Mandate data collection on traffic stops, arrests, and use of force incidents categorized by race, providing valuable insights into patterns within policing practices while identifying areas needing improvement. Host regular public forums where residents can voice concerns directly to law enforcement officials, creating opportunities for dialogue while fostering mutual understanding between communities and police departments. These proposals garnered significant support from both constituents, eager for change, as well as fellow council members, recognizing the need for systemic reform within local policing practices. The path forward. As discussions surrounding these reforms unfolded within city government meetings, Mayor Thompson remained resolute in his commitment toward justice, not just for himself, but also for every individual who had ever felt marginalized or targeted due to systemic biases entrenched within society. "We have an opportunity here," he stated during one meeting attended by activists advocating alongside him. "An opportunity not only to address what happened, but also to create lasting change that will benefit our entire community moving forward." With each passing day following his arrest, the narrative evolved beyond mere headlines. It became symbolic of collective struggles faced by marginalized communities everywhere, striving toward equity, while demanding justice from systems designed often without consideration toward their needs or experiences. National conversations. As conversations surrounding police reform gained momentum locally, nationally, there was also an uptick in discussions regarding systemic racism embedded within various institutions across America, from education systems through healthcare access, highlighting disparities affecting marginalized groups disproportionately over time. Prominent figures such as civil rights leaders began amplifying these messages through interviews on major news networks while calling attention toward urgent reforms needed across multiple sectors impacting everyday lives, urging citizens nationwide not only recognize injustices, but also take action against them collectively, moving forward together toward equity. A broader movement. The incident involving Mayor Thompson became emblematic of broader movements advocating social justice across America, a reminder that change often begins at home, but requires collective effort fueled by passion, coupled with determination among those willing to stand up against injustice wherever it may arise, regardless its form or source. As protests continued throughout neighborhoods across cities nationwide, their messages echoed loudly, reminding everyone present they were fighting not only against systemic oppression, but also striving toward dignity, respect, recognition, essential every individual deserves regardless background, identity, socioeconomic status, all united under banner equality justice. Interview with the mayor. A week after his release from police custody, Mayor James Thompson sat down for an exclusive interview with a local news anchor, Sarah Mitchell. The interview was set in a cozy studio adorned with images of the city's skyline and community events, creating a warm atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the turmoil of the past few days. Thompson, dressed in a crisp white shirt and navy blazer, appeared composed yet visibly affected by the recent events. As the cameras began rolling, Sarah greeted him with a warm smile. "Thank you for joining us today, Mayor Thompson. We know this has been an incredibly challenging time for you. Let's start by discussing what happened on that fateful day." The arrest, a personal experience. Thompson took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "Thank you for having me, Sarah. It's been a whirlwind of emotions since my arrest. I never imagined I would find myself in such a situation, handcuffed and treated like a criminal in my own city." He paused, reflecting on the moment he was approached by the officers. "I was simply going about my day, meeting constituents who rely on me to advocate for their needs. When I realized they were questioning me based on a vague description, it felt surreal. I thought to myself, how can this be happening?" Sarah nodded empathetically. "It's understandable to feel that way. Many people were shocked when they heard about your arrest. What do you think this incident says about our society and policing practices?" Broader implications. Thompson leaned forward, his expression serious. "This incident is not just about me. It highlights systemic issues within our law enforcement agencies. It raises questions about racial profiling and how individuals are perceived based on their appearance. I believe it's crucial for us to address these biases and work towards building trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve." He continued passionately. "We need to recognize that many people in our city have faced similar situations, being treated with suspicion simply because of their race or socioeconomic status. This is an opportunity for us to have difficult conversations about race relations and accountability in policing." Sarah interjected, "You mentioned that many individuals have shared their experiences with you since your arrest." Can you elaborate on what those conversations have been like? Voices from the community. Thompson nodded, recalling the numerous discussions he had engaged in over the past week. I've spoken to countless residents who have recounted their own encounters with law enforcement, stories filled with fear and frustration. These conversations have opened my eyes to the reality that many people live in constant anxiety regarding interactions with police. He shared an example. One woman told me how she was pulled over for a minor traffic violation and felt that she was treated as if she were a criminal simply because of her skin color. Hearing these stories has reinforced my commitment to fighting for change, not just for myself, but for everyone who has ever felt marginalized or targeted. Moving forward, a vision for change. As the interview progressed, Sarah shifted the focus toward Thompson's vision for the future of policing in their city. What steps do you plan to take moving forward to address these issues? Thompson responded confidently. First and foremost, we need to implement comprehensive bias training for our police officers. This training should focus on recognizing implicit biases and understanding cultural sensitivities when interacting with diverse communities. He continued outlining his vision. Additionally, I propose establishing community policing initiatives that foster positive relationships between officers and residents. We need officers who are not just enforcers of the law, but also members of our community, individuals who understand our neighborhoods and engage with residents on a personal level. Sarah asked about accountability measures. And what about accountability? How can we ensure that officers are held responsible for their actions? Creating an independent oversight board is essential, Thompson replied firmly. This board would review incidents involving use of force or allegations of misconduct to ensure transparency while holding officers accountable for their actions. The role of community engagement. Thompson emphasized the importance of community engagement in fostering trust between law enforcement and residents. We need regular public forums where citizens can voice their concerns directly to law enforcement officials, he said passionately. These forums will create opportunities for dialogue and mutual understanding, a chance for both sides to learn from each other. Sarah nodded appreciatively at his vision. It sounds like you're advocating for a fundamental shift in how policing is approached in our city. Absolutely, Thompson affirmed. This is not just about reforming policies. It's about changing mindsets within our law enforcement agencies and ensuring that officers see themselves as part of the communities they serve. Reflections on leadership. As the interview drew to a close, Sarah asked Thompson how this experience had impacted his perspective as a leader. How has your view of leadership changed following your arrest? Thompson reflected thoughtfully before answering. Leadership is not just about holding a position. It's about being accountable to those you serve. My experience has taught me that true leadership requires vulnerability, acknowledging when things go wrong and using those moments as opportunities for growth. He continued, I've learned that leaders must listen actively to their constituents' concerns and be willing to stand up against injustice, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. A call to action. Before concluding the interview, Sarah posed one final question. What message do you want to convey to your constituents during this challenging time? Thompson leaned closer to the camera, his sincerity evident as he spoke directly to viewers. I want everyone to know that I hear you, I see you, and I am committed to fighting alongside you for justice and equality in our city. Together we can create lasting change that ensures every individual feels safe and respected regardless of their background. He paused briefly before adding, This is not just my fight, it's ours as a community. We must come together, united in our pursuit of justice, to ensure that incidents like mine become relics of the past rather than recurring realities. The aftermath. As the interview concluded, Sarah thanked Mayor Thompson for sharing his insights and reflections during such a pivotal moment in his life and career. In the days following this interview, Thompson's words resonated deeply within the community, sparking renewed energy among activists advocating for police reform, while encouraging residents from all walks of life to engage actively in shaping their city's future. Social media buzzed with clips from the interview, as citizens expressed their support for Thompson's vision, a collective acknowledgement that change was not only possible, but necessary. Building momentum. The momentum generated by Thompson's interview led to increased participation in town hall meetings, where citizens gathered to discuss proposed reforms while sharing personal stories about their experiences with law enforcement. Activists organized workshops aimed at educating residents about their rights during police encounters, empowering individuals with knowledge while fostering solidarity among those advocating for justice. As discussions continued within city government meetings regarding proposed reforms, the narrative surrounding Mayor Thompson shifted from one focused solely on his arrest toward one centered around collective action aimed at creating meaningful change throughout communities across America. A new chapter. In this new chapter following his arrest, the mayor found himself not only leading discussions surrounding police reform, but also inspiring others through vulnerability coupled with resilience. A reminder that even amidst adversity, hope remains alive when communities come together, united under common goals striving toward equity justice. With each passing day, the commitment toward reform solidified further as citizens rallied around Mayor Thompson, recognizing him not merely as an elected official, but rather as an emblematic figure representing resilience against adversity, while inspiring hope among those yearning for change amidst challenging circumstances. Conclusion and reflection. The aftermath of the arrest. In the weeks following Mayor James Thompson's arrest, the city underwent a profound transformation. The incident had sparked a movement that resonated far beyond its initial shockwaves. Citizens from all walks of life rallied together, united by a shared commitment to justice and accountability in policing. As discussions about police reform gained momentum, Mayor Thompson worked tirelessly alongside community leaders, activists, and city council members to draft comprehensive proposals aimed at addressing systemic issues within law enforcement. The proposed reforms included bias training for officers, community policing initiatives, and the establishment of an independent oversight board to review police conduct. Community engagement became a cornerstone of this movement. Town hall meetings were held regularly, providing residents with a platform to voice their concerns and contribute to discussions about policing practices. These gatherings fostered an atmosphere of openness and collaboration, allowing citizens to feel heard and valued. At one particularly impactful meeting held at a local high school auditorium, residents shared their experiences with law enforcement, stories that ranged from minor inconveniences to deeply traumatic encounters. Each testimony reinforced the need for change and highlighted the urgency of implementing reforms. "I never thought my voice mattered," said one young man named Malik during a town hall meeting. "But hearing everyone share their stories makes me realize we're not alone in this fight." The collective energy in these meetings fueled a sense of empowerment among attendees. They began to see themselves not just as passive recipients of policy decisions, but as active participants in shaping their community's future. Legislative changes. As public pressure mounted, city council members recognized the need for decisive action. In a historic vote, they unanimously passed a series of reforms aimed at improving police-community relations. The measures included mandatory bias training for all officers, increased funding for community policing initiatives, and the establishment of an independent oversight board tasked with investigating complaints against law enforcement. Mayor Thompson stood at the forefront of these discussions, advocating passionately for each proposed change. "This is our opportunity to create lasting change," he declared during a council meeting. "We must ensure that our police force reflects the values of our community, values rooted in respect, accountability, and justice." The passage of these reforms marked a significant turning point for the city, a recognition that systemic issues could no longer be ignored. It was a testament to the power of collective action and community advocacy. Building trust. As reforms were implemented, efforts to build trust between law enforcement and residents intensified. Community policing initiatives were rolled out across neighborhoods, encouraging officers to engage with residents through regular outreach programs and events. One such initiative involved officers hosting coffee with a cop sessions at local cafes. informal gatherings where residents could meet officers in a relaxed setting. These events allowed for open dialogue between police and community members, fostering relationships built on trust rather than fear. "I never thought I'd feel comfortable talking to an officer," said Maria Gonzalez, a local business owner who attended one of the sessions. "But getting to know them as people has changed my perspective completely." These interactions began to shift perceptions within the community. Residents who once viewed law enforcement with suspicion started seeing officers as allies dedicated to serving their neighborhoods. A national movement. The impact of Mayor Thompson's arrest extended beyond local boundaries. It became part of a larger national conversation about race relations and policing practices across America. Activists from other cities reached out to Thompson, seeking guidance on how they could advocate for similar reforms in their communities. Thompson embraced this opportunity to share his experiences and insights with others facing similar challenges. He participated in panel discussions and webinars focused on police reform, amplifying voices advocating for justice while emphasizing the importance of grassroots movements in effecting change. "Change doesn't happen overnight," he told an audience during one such event. "It requires dedication, persistence, and most importantly, unity among those who believe in justice." As his message resonated nationally, Thompson became recognized not only as a local leader, but also as an influential voice advocating for systemic change across America. Reflections on leadership. Reflecting on his journey since that fateful day when he was arrested, Mayor Thompson recognized how profoundly it had changed him as both an individual and a leader. The experience had forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about systemic biases within society, while also highlighting his responsibility toward those he served. Leadership is about more than just making decisions. It's about being accountable, he shared during an interview reflecting on his experiences. It's about listening to your constituents' concerns and using your platform to advocate for those who may not have a voice. He emphasized that true leadership requires vulnerability, the willingness to acknowledge mistakes while striving for improvement. "I've learned that we must be open to feedback from our communities if we are ever going to create meaningful change." A lasting legacy. As time passed since his arrest, the reforms implemented within law enforcement began yielding positive results. Reports indicated a decrease in complaints against police officers, while community engagement initiatives flourished. Evidence that trust was being rebuilt slowly but surely. Mayor Thompson's legacy became intertwined with this movement, a reminder that even amidst adversity, hope remains alive when communities come together united under common goals, striving toward equity justice. In recognition of these efforts, a local organization dedicated to social justice honored Thompson with an award celebrating his commitment toward fostering positive change within their city. During the ceremony filled with applause from supporters, he expressed gratitude while emphasizing that this recognition belonged not just to him, but also every individual who had fought alongside him throughout this journey. "This is our collective victory," he stated passionately before an audience filled with friends, allies, supporters alike. "Together we've shown what can happen when we stand up against injustice while advocating for accountability, transparency." Looking ahead, as Mayor Thompson looked toward the future, he remained committed not only toward continuing efforts aimed at improving policing practices, but also expanding initiatives focused on addressing broader social issues affecting marginalized communities throughout their city, from education access through economic empowerment opportunities. He envisioned partnerships between local businesses, schools, organizations aimed at providing resources, support necessary, empower individuals, families facing challenges daily, creating pathways toward success while fostering resilience among those often overlooked, marginalized. "We have so much work ahead," he said during closing remarks at another town hall meeting filled with enthusiastic attendees, eager to contribute ideas, share experiences. "But together, we can build a brighter future where everyone feels safe, respected, valued." With each passing day, the narrative surrounding Mayor Thompson evolved beyond mere headlines. It became symbolic of collective struggles faced by marginalized communities, everywhere striving toward equity, while demanding justice from systems designed often without consideration toward their needs or experiences. Final thoughts. In reflecting upon everything that had transpired since his arrest, the mayor felt grateful not only for support received from constituents, but also inspired by resilience demonstrated within communities across America fighting against injustice. "I am proud to serve as your mayor," he concluded during final remarks delivered outside City Hall, surrounded by supporters eager to celebrate progress made together. "And I promise you, I will continue fighting alongside you until every voice is heard, every person treated with dignity and respect." As he stood there, surrounded by friends, allies, supporters alike, the future seemed bright-filled possibilities waiting to unfold before them, all united under banner equality justice.